Hello and welcome back. We are going to be doing another ink review today. If you are new here, I am very new to fountain pens and fountain pen inks, so I am exploring these different colors and doing swatches for those of you who have not seen them before. So if there is one that you would like to see, if you could leave me a recommendation down below of what to try, if I can get my hands on it, then we will review it. So today I have one by Vinta, and it's really pretty. It looks like it's going to be a paler blue color. These are very pretty inks. Let me go ahead and open this. I do save my bottles in the boxes because I don't want the light to cause them to fade, so I try not to damage the boxes when I open them. Alright, let's see how this looks. Okay, it's got that cardboard in there to keep it safe. Okay, shake that up a little bit. I don't know if this is a shimmer ink or not, so we will just shake this up. This one is called Blue Floss. So I guess it's going to look like cotton candy maybe. Alright, and I'll set that aside. And the first thing we're going to do is make a swatch on this card. This helps us see the different properties of the ink. Well, if it is a shimmer ink, hopefully I got all the shimmers. I don't remember when I ordered this. I don't remember if it did or not, but anyways. Alright, so first let's go ahead and dip this in here. I do not believe this is a shimmer ink, but anyways, we'll see. That's a really nice blue on the glass there. Okay, so this is definitely very pretty color. Very nice shade of like a light blue. And then we'll see if it has any other properties in it, if it's got any like shading going on or anything. Trying to get all the ink off of this. I'm going to try not to oversaturate on here like I tend to do. I think I've already just overdone it. Well, anyways, we'll give that a second to settle. Hopefully it's dry at the end. That's why I've been doing these first, was to give them time to dry. I may not be doing a very good job of that. All right. So this one is Blue Floss by Vinta. Okay, we're going to give that a few moments to dry off to the side and see how it looks at the end, like I just said. Alright, let's move this over. Already it's starting to separate a little bit. It's like a different shade of, this is like a grayish blue, and that's more of like a bright, almost turquoise blue or something. Kind of neat. Let's see how that turns out. Okay, so that's setting off to the side. So I do tests on different types of paper. We're going to do one on basic cheap copy paper. And we'll also do HP 32 paper and Tomo River paper. This is because not everybody has the fancy papers available to them for whatever reason, and they want to know maybe how this ink is going to look on the papers that they have available. So this was something that I ran into because when I first started buying ink, I didn't know that the effects of the ink would show up differently depending on the paper that you had. I thought it depended only on like the ink in the pen because I didn't know anything about this. And once I learned that the paper was the problem, I switched out my paper, and then I started seeing all the pretty effects that everybody talks about in their inks, and I thought, oh, okay, well, I should probably share this information because it's not obvious. I don't think it's the first thing that people think of, like, oh, the problem is the paper. Like, that's not what I would have thought. So all right, this is copy paper, and let's do some slow lines. I do these slow lines because I think in some cases it helps show the shading, because you just have a line to look at. You don't have the complication of the loops and things in the letters where you're not sure if maybe it was the pen pressure or something else. So in my head I feel like this is helpful. But we don't just draw straight lines when we write when we write. So it's good to have both, I think. Okay, so far this is looking really pretty. It's a very nice muted pale, like baby blue, dusty blue. And it looks like there are some different colors that are showing through, even though this is just cheap copy paper. So let's clean this off and go to the HP 32 paper. And if you've never used it before, HP 32 paper is essentially just a higher quality copy paper. So you can get it at most places. It's not hard to find. I do have an Amazon link down below if you'd like to use that. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it helps me out. So I would appreciate it if you did, but it is not at all necessary. So here's that. And it has a smoother finish. And I think what that does is it gives the ink time to show off its properties before it dries. So this is a really good choice for a lot of inks. You don't necessarily need to go to something like a Tomo River. And sometimes the way the ink looks, you might prefer the way it looks on a cheaper paper than on an expensive paper. So there's that. Another reason. So there's, you know, it's with an ink, inks are very, I think, a very personal thing. So whichever paper and ink you choose and the reasons you choose it are going to be specific to yourself. It's not something that somebody can say it has to look a certain way. All right, blue floss. Vinta. Alrighty, and this is HP 32. So already the color on this is looking a little bit bolder, a little more vibrant, just different from the cheap copy paper. And it hasn't dried yet. I noticed that some inks, when they are wet, will look completely different from how they look when they are dry. So I try to withhold any judgment until the end. But it's interesting to see how things look as you put them down on paper. Okay. And then we'll set that aside. But this is showing a little bit of shading maybe, and an interesting sheen. And even though this is really just like a, like I said, like a dusty baby blue kind of a color, it has a lot of depth to it, and it seems to pop out of the page a little bit more on this paper, so that's kind of cool. All right, and then we'll try the Tomo River paper. And Tomo River paper, if you've never used it before, is very, very thin, like tracing paper, and it doesn't feel like it would be able to support something like fountain pen ink, but it does. It's fantastic. So let's see. Oops, we gotta wash off the first one, sorry. Okay, clean pen, start over. There we go. Okay. To find the smooth side of this pen. So glass pens typically have one side that's smoother than the others, and you have to twirl it in your fingers to find, until you find the right spot to write with. So if you have a glass pen, or if you get one and it feels scratchy at first, just turn it and try writing on at a slightly different, you know, a different angle, I guess, when you turn it, and it should give you, eventually you should be able to find like a smoother writing surface. Blue floss. Oops. By Vinta. And this is Tomo River. And we'll do some slow lines also on this. So definitely share with me any inks that you would like to see me review. I will have some links down below to some other inks at different places where you can buy various inks. The ones that I show in these videos, if I can get a link for them, I will do my best to provide a link below where you can get them. But sometimes the places that I get these inks are from resellers, and so they're, you know, they might run out of stock, or these might be unavailable from that seller. So if I can find them available somewhere, I'll try to remember to put a link. All right, I'm gonna clean off this pen. All right. And I'll put the cap on this before I spill it. This is a really unusual color. I think that so far on the HP 32, the ink, well, compared to the regular copy paper, it's looking about the same as far as the quality, but the color is different. Give me just a moment to put this away, and then I will show you what I'm talking about. The Tomo River paper, though, definitely, so far, in my opinion, is showing off more of its properties, which is pretty usual for Tomo River paper, so that's how it looks so far. These swatches here are still wet, but the writing is dry, and you can see here, if you lay down a thicker line, you're going to see, which is what I did accidentally when I was correcting my writing there. You can see all the properties, all the colors of the ink come through. This would, this would probably look really pretty in like a broad nib or something. I'm not sure. And then down here where I drew these lines, you can see very clear difference in the line from the bottom to the top. So this ink does have a lot of fun properties that looks like they'll be showed off much better if you're writing with a thicker line or laying down a lot of ink. That's kind of interesting. We'll give that time to dry. And then these two here, this is the regular copy paper. So again, you see all the different color variations seems to come through when you write thicker. Here's those thick lines, or those slow lines. I mean, you can see here where it's a more of a purpley color, and it goes to like that baby dusty blue down here. Over here where I wrote a little bit thicker. So this one doesn't seem to be as affected by the paper as much as some other inks where they look like a flat one color on the paper and then look completely different on the expensive papers. So even though this does kind of look flat by comparison, when you'll see when we compare it to the other papers side by side, this looks almost flat, but you do see the shading and the different colors coming through in the places where the ink is laid down heavier. So again, if you have like maybe I'm assuming anyway, because I haven't tried it, but maybe like a broader nib or something, you might be able to get this pretty color variation on the cheaper paper. And this is the HP 32, so you can see how the ink is a different color. So like completely, let me show you. Over here, this is like really muted, it's almost gray. And over here, it's very clearly two different colors. Like it is here as well, but it's more muted, it's more flat. This seems to kind of jump up off the page at you a little bit more. Very much a nicer color, but it's different. This is paler, this is almost pastel by comparison. This is a lot bolder looking. So if you wanted the pastel look, you'd probably want to use cheaper paper, ironically. If you want the bolder color, then you need to use something nicer like the HP 32. And then the writing, side by side, this does still tend to lean more to like slightly bolder in color, whereas this is slightly lighter and more pastel. But in the places where the ink was laid down a little bit heavier, you are seeing the different color variation as well. So this is a situation where I think personally it would, the quality of the paper isn't going to automatically be better with the better quality paper if this is the effect you're going for. If you're going for this, you know, more muted pastel-y look, and if you want it to be a little bit more vivid and kind of jump out at you a little bit more, then you'd want the HP 32 paper. And then we put the Tomo River paper on here, and then it changes everything again. So here you're seeing very obvious separation of colors here, and in here again it goes from this very pale color like over here to the more bolder colors that you see over here. So this is like taking the best of both of these papers and putting it into one. But I think on this paper, on the Tomo River paper, I think to really see the better qualities of the ink, you might have to use a broader nib of some kind, is my guess, just because of how it's behaving. So this is just total guess because I don't really know what I'm talking about other than just what I'm seeing happening when I lay more color down. So that's kind of neat. So you really could get a good effect out of any paper depending on what effect you're going for. So this is kind of like one of those where it sort of depends on what you want, which is unexpected. That's a really pretty color though. Very interesting. And then what we'll do is check out the swatch that we made and see what that tells us. Okay, so this is how the swatch looks. So over here, you've got all these lovely blues coming out. So there's that more bold blue, kind of like marbling effect here. And then you got the paler blue as well, but then you got like this purpley pink, very, very, very pale pink almost. Around here a little bit it's showing, and down here. And then you got this very hard edge of like the outline, the shading. And I think that's what we're seeing on the Tomo River paper as well. You get that pinky kind of purpley color here, and then you got that blue effect here, you're getting that, and then the grays, and I think that's really what we're seeing. It's very interesting. And then the writing, I think this, whatever this paper is really showing off all those colors very, very well, which is really interesting. So this is going to be one of those inks where it totally changes depending on the paper you use, and it may not be better or worse, it's just different, which I think is kind of cool. So let's try these under the light really quick and just see if this shows us anything different, because sometimes the camera has trouble picking up what I'm trying to explain. So here's how that looks under the light. Okay, I'll set that down, and then we've got copy paper, HP 32, and the Tomo River paper. And that's how those colors look. So that's the swatches. And then I think just because those swatches look so different from the writing, I'll go ahead and, yeah. So yeah, that's very unusual. Another very pretty ink, completely unexpected results. I did not think at all that this would go this way, but that is fantastic. So now, knowing this, we know what options we have, so when we go to choose the paper, we'll know what paper to pick depending on the effect we want. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, then click like and subscribe so you can see more, and please leave me any suggestions you have for other inks and whatnot, and I will see you guys again soon, and have a great day.